Hi, that's here, viewers of Equinoxe Television, 6 p.m. by 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the news. We begin right away with our major stories. A committee to protect journalists is denouncing the numerous atrocities against journalists in Cameroon, especially those who are exercising or working in the English-speaking regions of the country, which are conflict-stricken. The committee is poised to ensure that the journalism profession is respected by all. And also, in this newscast, we will be taking you to Bonaberi in the Douala 4 municipality, where the local population there continue counting their losses following blackouts which has been going on now for about 3 days. Those are our major stories. Welcome back, viewers. We told you a while ago in the headlines that a committee to protect the rights of journalists is denouncing the numerous atrocities caused against journalists across Cameroon, especially those who are working in the English-speaking regions of the country. They cited the case of Samuel Wazizi and other journalists who have been arbitrarily arrested and detained. Let's now have more with Immaculate Fogwe.
Despite being regarded as the watchdog of the society, journalists are subjected to countless threats ranging from killings, arbitrary arrest, torture and kidnappings. The impunity for crimes against journalists has led to the covering of some serious human rights abuses. The escalation of the armed conflict in Anglophone Cameroon has further multiplied crimes against journalists. The Committee to Protect Journalists cites the case of Samuel Wazizi.
Samuel Wazizi and what happened to him was unconscionable, and it symbolizes what we mean when we say that when you are a journalist in Cameroon, you are under threat. You can disappear in the system as Samuel Wazizi did, and that it took 10 months before the government was prepared to say that he had died in custody, just shows the level that journalists do face in terms of their own safety, their own security.
The CPJ says Cameroon is a fourth world jailer of journalists.
The fact that the government continues to keep Kingsley in jail and that they have yet to prosecute him or ensure that he has a proper trial just points to the fact that this is an arbitrary detention, which the United Nations itself believes is an arbitrary detention. And it is our hope that the government will do the right thing, that the government will release Kingsley and all other journalists who remain in jail, but at the very least...
The International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, celebrated on the 2nd of November, is set aside to highlight the instrumental role of prosecutorial services in investigating and prosecuting not only killings but also threats of violence against journalists. According to the United Nations, more than 70 journalists have been killed.
Well, we'll be talking more about what journalists, especially in Cameroon, go through while exercising their duties in this edition of the news. That would be in the second part. And now we move on to this other report. Germany wants to compensate Cameroon for the damage caused during the colonial days, such as the execution of the King Rudolf Douala Mangabel and his secretary Ngosodin. Both men were sentenced to death following staunch opposition to some German colonial masters. Babila Jonathan completes the story.
The execution of one of Cameroon's prominent colonial-era traditional authorities, Rudolf Douala Mangabel, and his secretary, Adolphe Ngosodin, in 1914, a crime acknowledged by the mastermind of the assassination, Germany, 108 years after the tragedy.
This is one of the most important things, that we have the recognition that something bad has been done.
Speaking on the execution site in the heart of the Bonanjo administrative area in Douala, German Federal Minister of Foreign Affairs underscores the innocence of King Rudolf Douala Mangabel and Adolphe Ngosodin. She qualifies their execution as injustice.
Ils furent exécutés par l'administration coloniale allemande. They were executed by the German colonial administration in the name of the German people, but the judgment was unjust, even in application of the norms in force at the time. The judicial procedure was against the principle of the rule of law.
Facilitated by Princess Marlene Douala Mangabel of the Bell clan, the visit of the German Federal Minister of Foreign Affairs to Douala opens the way for reparation.
Colonialism was organized for systematic exploitation, resources taken by force and borders established arbitrarily. As a federal government, we are determined to face this chapter of our history and put an end to the flows of such treatment.
From now, we are going to start a new way together. We are going to look together how we can build a roadmap on which we can build something very good.
Minister Kool and her collaborators will then pay tribute to the two historic figures, first at the execution site and then on their graves, few meters away from where they were executed.
And now we take you to Bonaberi in the Douala 4 municipality. We told you in the headlines that the local populations there continue counting their losses following blackouts which has been going on now for over 3 days, and those mostly affected are business persons, those who are in markets. Our reporter Lucy Liengu Esia was in Bonaberi. Today she now tells us more.
Chantal has lost everything in her fridge. She says she was forced to throw away her fish, meat, leftover food, which got bad due to the sustained blackout.
C'était les poissons, j'ai jeté.
Aside her, business operators who use machines in their factories complain that for the past days they have been unable to work.
So my company functions with machine. All of our business is with machine. And those machines are using electricity. So when there is no electricity like that, we cannot function. We cannot function.
At the Rye Market, customers who come to grind say they have been asked to pay extra. Instead of 100 francs, they now pay 200 francs for the same quantity. With the continuous blackout, some inhabitants of Bonandale say they are compelled to walk for long distances in search of a generator to charge their phones. The situation is very complicated for me because I use my phone for every activity I carry out. So when I heard that a bakery around has a generator, I seized the opportunity to charge my phone. Responding to a call from Equinoxe television, officials of the company in charge of electricity, Enyo, say the Minister of Water and Energy might come down to the field in the days ahead to analyze the situation.
And now from Douala, we take you to the Mbam and Kim division, where the local population of the town of Ntui are complaining of the very deplorable state of roads in that area. They say especially farm to market roads which are in bad state, and it makes it very difficult for them to transport their farm products from the farms to the market. Mala Glory tells us more.
Muddy, slippery and littered with potholes, almost impassable. This is the road linking Tui, Banga, Kela, Kusi, and many other communities in the Mbam and Kim division of the Center region. Even the most cautious driver can get into an accident while plying this road. Locals sometimes have to make their own way. Motorists have no choice but to slow down when passing through this damaged road. transporters complain the bad route sometimes damage their vehicles. The locals, who are mostly farmers, say their farm produce has been abandoned in the farm due to the bad state of the farm-to-market road. The road, according to the locals, has been abandoned and is gradually becoming almost inaccessible.
And now we take you to the Northwest Regional Headquarters of Bamenda, where several complaints have been received against local representatives at the Office of the Public Independent Conciliator, and the mayors have been cautioned against the non-respect of human rights in the discharge of their duties, as Stella Mbu tells us in the report which comes up next.
Among the over 62 complaints received so far at the Office of the Public Independent Conciliator for the Northwest is an abuse of the rights of a former NDOP council staff. Over 20 years ago, he served as a council staff and was not paid his arrears. The Public Independent Conciliator, in its substantive role, aims at promoting the rights of citizens, users and beneficiaries of council services, the prevention of indirect discrimination and the enforcement of ethical standards in regional and council functioning, tasked the NDOP Council to pay the money owed even after the death of the former council staff.
The man died many years ago, so I told the successor that he should be calm. I'm going to look into the matter. So they did all their work. Both came out with the finding, and I saw that the man due his money.
This is just one out of the many rights of citizens mayors have been violating in the exercise of their duties.
As a municipal authority, you are carrying on your projects in your municipality without the concept of human rights. I think that meaning you are not working for the people.
To minimize the wranglings between the citizens and the local representative, the Office of the Public Independent Conciliator has educated mayors with the aim of ensuring the effectiveness of councils rather than resolving council issues.
Their work is about bringing human rights home, and they, as a relay of government, are supposed to endorse and give action to the commitment of the state to international human rights instruments.
At the close of the 2 days workshop, mayors were told to consider the rights of every citizen in the execution of projects so as to reduce conflicts.
And now we take you to our sports pitch. Football lovers in Cameroon say they have put their hopes in, or they are hoping that the performance of Choupo-Moting is going to be a plus for Cameroon in the World Cup competition, as a country, the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, warm up ahead of that competition. The 33-year-old Bayern Munich striker scored his 7th goal in his last 6 matches against Inter Milan of Italy. Let's now have more with Smart Jikan Gabriel.
Maxime Choupo-Moting is the new goal machine for his professional club side, Bayern of Munich in Germany. The 33-year-old striker, who recently returned from injury, has been in his best form since switching sides from Paris Saint-Germain in France to Bayern Munich in 2020.
Doing it again, same little layoff. Sané's gone from distance. Oh, Sané!
Since the start of the season, Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting has scored 8 goals and has given decisive passes, which led to 3 goals in 13 matches he has played in all competitions. The Cameroonian international striker has the best rate of any player, who has scored at least 2 goals in every 83rd minute.
Ball on Augsburg has got in a real mess, and Choupo-Moting has made them pay.
Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting has scored in each of his last 5 Champions League games. In a whole, in 6 matches played, Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting has scored 7 goals. Before the World Cup break next November 13, 2022, Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting still has a chance of adding to his goal tally with Bayern Munich as they take on Hertha Berlin, Werder Bremen and Schalke 04 in the Bundesliga before the FIFA World Cup begins. The current form of Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting has been appreciated by sport lovers.
And Thank you so much, Smart, for that report. It brings us to the end of the first part of the news. Viewers, don't go away. Talking Point comes up next. Welcome back, viewers. Today we are talking about the atrocities by journalists or caused against journalists by some local authorities, not only in Cameroon, in Africa, but also in the world. And those crimes sometimes go by unpunished. Journalists are sometimes arrested and detained arbitrarily without any warrant of arrest, among several other atrocities which journalists are faced on a daily basis in the exercise of their duties. And today we are receiving on Talking Point a journalist and also a communicator, Ashu Akepe. Thank you so much for accepting to be our guest tonight. Right, straight away to our very first question. You have been a journalist on the field for several years. What, according to you, are some of those challenges that journalists, especially in Cameroon, in our context, face on a daily basis in exercising their profession?
Good evening, Anne, and good evening to all the viewers worldwide. It's always a pleasure to be here at Equinoxe TV. You know, celebrating a day like this, to me, is a call on journalists and different journalist organizations to sensitize and educate their members and the professionals in the field. Talking about the challenges that journalists faced, I can say it can be divided into four branches. Challenges from the state and institution, challenges from event organizers, challenges from employers, and the challenges caused by journalists themselves. Understand? As regard to the problems are numerous. The basic ones, inaccessibility to information, or the selective distribution of information, especially information that concerns the state and some institutions. They choose which media organ to give information and which not to give, and in that it causes friction amongst media practitioners. Understand? And talking about impunity in general and the type of harassment journalists suffer, as I said earlier, there are four ways. From the state, we talk of police arrest during maybe certain ceremonies, or when journalists find themselves in certain areas they were not supposed to be, or they are there without authorization. All that one part is a problem of education. Journalists need to be educated where and when not to go, and how to assess certain areas. If an area is supposed to be assessed through an authorization, it is good to get authorization before assessing. Guys work without any pay package, understand? Event organizers, when they organize the event, they think they can just call the journalists at any moment, at any time. Then the journalists themselves too have a problem. They have a problem. They have to look into the way they present themselves to the public. Understand? The way they present themselves to organizers. You cannot be invited to an event and they come out with your bathing slippers and you attend somebody's event. I think you'll be regarded. I think we should sell a positive image about the profession. We should command respect. We should do our work with integrity. Understand? We should do our work with a lot of honesty, and journalists should be professional. I call on journalists to always get the assistance of legal experts, especially when they're engaging in contracts. It is not because the labor market is poor that we have to shiver whenever a boss is proposing us a contract. You don't need to shiver. It is high time journalists stand up and stamp their mark. Maybe the guys in the public service don't have the same challenges those in the private sectors are facing, but it is real, and it is time journalists come under one umbrella association, form a strong syndicate to push through, so that this profession should be respected. The other sectors that are respected is thanks to the strong trade union that exists. You take the insurance sector, you have a trade union, okay? You have a collective control. That trade is a collective convention that is strictly followed. You go to the banking sector, it's the same thing. You understand? Take the bar council. You don't pull around lawyers anyhow, because the bar council is there. It's the stamina. So the media, journalists in particular, they need to build a strong network. You have to form a strong trade union. Multiplicity of trade union is not a solution. Because it is in such situations that the government likes, or the employers, when they see multiplicity of trade union, they infiltrate it easily. But if it is one block, it will be difficult for those distractors to come in and put a journalist on ease.
And now, what's your take on this usual arbitrary arrest and detention of journalists, sometimes without warrant of arrest? It's very common to find in this our profession a journalist picked up from his or her house directly after work. What's your take on that?
Well, for the cases that you've mentioned, I'm happy you said they were picked up from their houses. It's different from being picked up in line of duty. Now, find out, why were they picked up from their houses? Were they picked up from their houses because of their profession, or they were picked up from their houses because of involvement in other aspects? Those are two things. Remember, we have journalists who are politicians. When a journalist is picked up in the line of duty as a partisan politician, that is a different debate. But when he is picked up in the course of covering an event, it is another ballgame. I'll give you an example of what happened recently with Philemon Bale. Kamasej and all other associations stood up that he should be released. Right? There was a lot of pressure was mounted on the authorities that whatever the case, he is a citizen. He has a lot of guarantees. Just like what is being said about Pafesiki. He was picked up, but not on the line of duty. But the Journalists Association are now coming up to say, despite the fact that he wasn't picked up on the line of duty, as a citizen, as a free citizen who has a guarantee, and the law gives him that opportunity that he can be bailed and be summoned whenever. So we should try to make up about journalists who are arrested in the line of duty. We cannot list so many in Cameroon, but they exist in other countries in the world. You talked about the crisis zone. You know, it is a two-sided way. That is where the notion of knowledge comes in, and the role of association, professional association comes in. You need to educate their members on how to behave when you are in a crisis situation. If we take the situation of the Northwest and the Southwest as a case study, if you, the journalist, you report against any of the belligerent, you are in trouble. It is a fact. So it is you who has the information at hand to know which information is good at this particular time for public consumption. Ask yourself, if I make this information public, what will be the impact? I put the question back to you, although you're the one supposed to ask the question. If you are moving along the street with your camera and you see your mom ahead of you, the wind blows out her gown and you see her nudeness, will you film that and post it? The answer is often no. So it is left for us to know which information is good for public consumption at this particular time. What is the impact of the information I am putting for public consumption? So that is where the aspect of knowledge. We should know what we are doing, the information. But when you get information, don't just put it for public consumption. You treat it with your editorial team to know, if I put this information to the public, what is the impact? If you judge that the impact will be negative, you kill it for that moment.
But Ashu, you're a journalist, and you should know that a journalist is supposed to report nothing but the truth. A journalist is not supposed to do selective reporting. A journalist should report on facts.
We are supposed to report facts the way it is. Nobody's denying it. But what is the outcome of the fact that we are reporting? Because somebody said there is freedom of speech. But if you, in the context where you are not sure of freedom after speech, then you judge which information I am putting in the public. We judge the consequence. That's why I use the image of your mom. That's the question we must answer. Because I remember we had one seminar with a renowned barrister. He made this point clear. It is not every information that we must put it at the consumption of the public at that particular time, because it may cause more damage than the good. So you, the journalist, you are knowledgeable enough to judge which information is good. There are certain information you kill at that particular point to bring it back later after other investigation and supporting fact. You understand? So that is what we are talking about.
And now, don't you think that this frequent arrest of media men and women can somehow deter or discourage upcoming or aspiring professionals?
Sure, arrest, detention, even out of the journalistic profession is something that is that should be fought against, that should be abolished, because normally, as you said, it deters the younger ones who are coming to the profession. It was one of the questions asked when our colleague Mimi was arrested. The question asked, they should tell us the real reason why she was arrested. If it is that she did not make public her source, then it is disturbing. Because that is what is being taught to the younger generation who are in school, that the source is sacred, is kept secret. So if you arrest a journalist for such a crime, except there is something behind an arrest that we are not know. So that's why we're also challenging our authorities to always communicate why somebody is arrested. You understand? Because the examples you gave, that they were arrested from their home. Were they arrested from their home because of their journalism profession or other activities? Because the fact that you are a journalist does not stop you from being a member of a political party, for being a member of a pressure group, and you can commit a crime there. That does not stop the law. That does not stop the law from pursuing you. So it is also good when somebody is arrested, there should be a communique on that, why that person is arrested. In other countries, it is done. So in our country, it should be done. But that can only be done if we, the journalists, form a strong network, a strong association that fights for that. Freedom is not given. It is fought for. Anything you want that is good is fought for. So until journalists themselves form a strong trade union to fight for their right, nobody will fight for them.
And now, Ashu, my last question. Today we are talking about impunity for crimes committed against journalists with frequent arrests and all of those. It somehow puts the profession at risk and can discourage so many aspiring journalists, like I said in my previous question. What encouraging words for those who aspire becoming journalists?
When you have information, judge the opportunity of making the information public. 2, we should know where to go, when to go. You understand? Because there are certain situations you find journalists into, and at times the media organs abandon them. No, they don't even have liability. Check your safety. It is true, we need to inform the people, but you should have good information, right information. But ask yourself, is this information at this particular time good for public consumption? If the answer is yes, you give it. If your answer is no, keep it for future consumption. No information. I know there's this this new issue of breaking news. Everybody wants to break news. The most important is not just to break news, is to give the right news, because we are feeding the public. We are not journalists don't entertain. We are not entertainers. You feed the public. You educate the public. That is the role of the journalist. The information you are giving is not to entertain the people. It's to make somebody, is to ensure that somebody who listens to you at 7 a.m. going to Bunanjo should know that there is danger on the way. It is true. You understand? So judge, read within the line. This information that I'm about to give, is it good? What will happen 5 seconds after I have given this information?
Okay, and these journalists who are always arrested and tortured, some journalists think it's a way of repressing the press and can deter other upcoming journalists. Thank you so much, Ashu Akepe, for being our guest tonight. And viewers, that does it for this edition of the news on Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for always according us your time. Don't go away, our programs continue. For now, bye-bye.